Today I want to talk about building your own bow drill set to start a fire. There's really 4 things you need. Your bow, your spindle, your fireboard, and then a hand piece. This can be a piece of wood that you cut a notch or a groove in it. This happens to be a beef cow knee bone. Here's the similar knee bone out of an elk. They both have a natural indentation here on the bottom, which gives great place for the spindle to set. You can hold it with your hand when you set it in your fireboard. You push down with that hand piece, keeping pressure, while you work the spindle back and forth with your bow. All right, so here's a dead cottonwood limb, and we're gonna start out by looking for a spindle. I look for something that's about an inch and a quarter in diameter, and rule of thumb is from your thumb to your pinky. I make it that long or even a little bit longer. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut a piece out of this just with an inexpensive folding saw that I've got right here. All right, so here's this stick we just cut for a spindle, and it's just flat on each end. That's not gonna work well with my knee bone. I want something that's gonna fit into that hollow to minimize friction and also allow me to hold that spindle steady while I'm working it back and forth. So I'm gonna take a knife and just sharpen this end here to a point. All right, just about like that. Sharpened kind of like a pencil. It'll fit in the hollow of this knee bone, reduces the friction down to a point, and will really give me good control for starting a fire. Now this other end is gonna set down in my fireboard, and I don't want it to be flattened off either. I wanna just round the edges. Doesn't need to be sharp like the end that faces upward. On the bottom side, I just wanna round off that edge. So really, essentially, I've just created a dome. Top side is pointed, bottom side is rounded or dome shape. That's gonna be a great spindle. Okay, as far as a bow goes, it doesn't have to be some green, supple, flexible limb. It can be old and dry like this. In fact, right here would make a great bow for my drill set. See how it's got a curve in it? A little bit of flex. I actually cut a stick very similar to that. In fact, it doesn't have a whole lot of curve to it at all. And I've simply tied a piece of paracord onto one end, and I've just got a timber hitch here on the other end. And I'll slip that up over here. I put a couple of notches in this just to give that paracord a place to bite into the wood. What I can do with this knot down here too is I can adjust it, take some of the slack out or give myself more slack as need be, depending on the diameter of the spindle that I'm using. So here's a log laying on the ground right here. I think that'll make a good fireboard. I look for something bigger around than my arm. I'll take my folding saw here. And I'm just gonna maybe cut it a foot in length or so, should be plenty. This looks like it'll do maybe this section right here. And you can see there's a natural split right here in the log. I'm gonna use that. I'm just gonna split this right in half. Get it started there. Look at that, split real nicely. Now, we could make a fireboard out of a half round log like that, but the problem is you'll have all this air space. So I want to split off one more piece to make it essentially a board, a flat board, so it's touching right on the earth. Just shaving off the side of this log here with my axe. That's pretty decent. Now essentially we've got a board 3/4 to an inch thick. Kind of thick on that end. I'll trim that a little bit more. So what I'm doing is, if this was a piece of metal, I'd use a nail set, and then I'd have a spot for my drill bit to bite in and stay steady. That's what I'm doing with the wood. Taking my pocket knife, working it around in a circle, and just creating a spot for that spindle to bite in when we get started here. Okay, looking at my spindle, I'm going to come in and do the same thing from the other side. Right there, again with my pocket knife. When I was learning to start a fire with the bow drill set, one night my boys and I, it took us 45 minutes. We had smoke. It looked so good. It was brutal. We were so exhausted, the three of us taking turns. We could not get a fire started. We even had guests there watching us. And that's the thing, I've tried to start a fire in front of a group of people before and failed. It was freezing cold and windy, and just know that this takes a lot of effort. It's not easy. But sometimes you can get a fire going in less than a minute. So what I wanted to show you today is the notch I have found is key. We were making the notch really narrow, and it wasn't allowing enough of the wood dust to build up. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. If it's a real narrow notch, say like this one right here, there's not enough room for the wood dust to build up and get a good ember. You want a nice wide notch. If this was a pizza and you cut it into 8 slices, you want your notch the size of an 1/8, right? Just one piece of pizza, the 1/8 of the pie. The blade on this knife is a pretty good indicator, okay? And I want to come in to about 1/3 of the way into this divot I've been digging, okay? I don't want my notch to come all the way through it, just about to there. So I'm going to take my knife here and just score a line like that. Use that as kind of a marker, and like that, okay? Okay, so now I've just cut a notch in to each side of my fireboard, and another trick I've learned is on the bottom side, I'll take and remove a little bit of this wood, like so, with my knife on both sides. The reason being, when this is setting on the ground, it allows a little bit of air underneath, okay? What we're doing here is we're gonna be building up a pile of wood dust. It's gonna come off of the spindle, and mainly it's gonna come off of my fireboard. But these are the same woods, they're both cottonwood, so as the friction occurs here, we want a big enough notch to catch all the wood dust. And then this little bit of space underneath here just allows a little oxygen in there. Bottom line is, this is gonna start to smoke, and that's a good sign. When the wood dust is black and it's smoking, you're on the right track. And you're gonna build this up until eventually an ember forms right here in the wood dust. So you're gonna get your ember here, transfer it to your tinder, transfer that to your kindling, and essentially you're going from just a tiny little ember to a roaring fire to keep you warm. Here's the spindle. We've got it rounded off on one side. It's pointed on the other. I've sharpened it up just a little bit more. And I'm gonna go ahead and load the spindle into my bow. I point the spindle upside down. I point it up and load it into the bow. It should be tight. That's when you know you've got it right. If it's too loose and sloppy, it's not gonna work. This is a piece of cardboard. You could use a leaf, a piece of leather, it doesn't matter. Just something for the fireboard to set on to catch the wood dust. And then I put my foot right here alongside it. I put the spindle right into there, put the base of it, line it up on my fireboard with my notch, and I'm gonna start to create some friction here with the bow. Anyways, we will just keep this up until we fill this with wood dust. Then we're gonna come down, and that's glowing hot, that ember. I blow it to life, move my fireboard out of the way, and I transfer my ember right into my bird's nest, pick that up, and blow it into life. Now we're gonna show footage of me doing that. at our deer and elk camp this past fall. We were at 9,500 feet in elevation. And so, thanks for watching. Hopefully you get out there and make your own bow drill fire set sometime soon. We've prepared our fire by building a log cabin and a teepee coming out of it. Here's my bird's nest right here. We're going to put the hot ember into. I'll put that right here. That's just dry grass that we've collected. Put my foot right here nice and close to the notch I'm going to work is that one. Put my spindle in there. Get my elk knee bone, again with that natural indentation that fits right over the point. I'll just take my bow and start working it back and forth. We got smoke already. We just keep up an even pace. And I'm applying a fair amount of pressure. We want those wood shavings to be black. If they're brown, light colored, it's not hot enough.
Does it matter what kind of wood you use for that baseboard?
Well, it's best, as far as I know, to use the same baseboard wood that you're using for your spindle. And in this case, they're both cottonwood.
And how do you know when you've got enough? When you've got an ember?
I judge it on the timing and the amount of smoke. It's a great question. It needs a little more time here. Now I'm pushing harder. We can actually stop and check. And it's smoking, so there's an ember in there. You'll see it glow red here. Just a second. See that? Mm-hmm. That ember is ready. So now I'm just going to carefully, don't have to be in a big hurry. I move my fireboard out of the way. Got my bird nest right here. I'm just going to put that hot ember into this bird nest, and we're going to blow it into life. I'm going to hold it up about eye level so the smoke is going up above my face when I blow. I'm going to kind of close that nest in around it a little bit. We're close. And there's fire. Now let's transfer it to our teepee with our good old log cabin teepee. This thing should get going real nice. You guys want to grab some